Okay, all right, yeah. Actually, I did really want this keyboard. But let's say that I didn't want it because this is the keyboard that I didn't want to buy it. Because the truth is, as much as I fancied it, I really, truly had no intention of getting it. And even when I needed to get a keyboard, let's not dwell too much on the word need. Even when I needed to buy, I did not want to pay this much. This is the extended Apple Magic Keyboard with Touch ID for the Mac. I should say specifically, exclusively really, for Macs with Apple Silicon. So if you have an Intel Mac, well, the whole keyboard works, but you don't get the use of this Touch ID button for locking and unlocking things. It's a keyboard, right? You're a writer. I'm a writer. Keyboards, they're a bit essential, but are they £200 essential? Possibly. Hello, I'm William Gallagher and this is 58 Keys, which as ever, as always, is for writers like you and me who use and who write on Macs and on iPhones and iPads. Do subscribe because, you know, there's just always so much that we can talk about instead of writing. Yeah. Including this time, where did I find £200 to splash out on a keyboard when I had only bought my previous one fewer than 2 years earlier? And in fact, actually, I checked this a minute ago. It wasn't even 2 years earlier. It was 645 days. And that one, actually, is this one. This was also an extended Apple Magic Keyboard. Yeah, a bit similar, different colours. This one doesn't have that Touch ID light. Cost about £119 or $150 or so. And I make that 18 pence or 22 cents per day of use. Actually, that seems all right now. Well, it seems a bit better. Anyway, here's the thing. This keyboard, 645 days ago, back in 2020, it was a replacement for a smaller Magic Keyboard. You know, one that doesn't have all this, goes up to there. I'd been using that for, I think, about 5 years. 5 years of solid use, and I mean heavy solid use. 10 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week. I'll take that. 645 days. Not so much. But I really like Magic Keyboards. I mean, I thought they lasted forever. That was part of it. I bought that 2021 quite cheerily, in fact. It did soon lose lettering on some of the keys, which was a bit troubling, actually. And I don't know why. A and the S key. Yeah. Otherwise, it was just great until it wasn't. I had a few weeks where you try cleaning it and it's missing keystrokes. I was starting to apparently make typing mistakes in articles, and I wasn't. I was typing the right letters. They just weren't all recorded, but they weren't getting through. They weren't typed. So, writer, livelihood, new keyboard, had to happen. New Magic Keyboard with Touch ID. Well, no, that didn't have to happen. You can get much cheaper than this. But I've got Touch ID on my MacBook Pro, and it's very nice. Barely any more passwords. You just rest your finger on the button for logging into the Mac or to your bank accounts, paying for something. It's quite restful, really. Speaking of paying, also for the first time ever, maybe you've done this, but I didn't really think about it before. I bought something from Amazon in installments. There was a deal. Okay, it was this same keyboard that you can get direct from Amazon for the same full price that Apple would have sold to me, but spread out over 5 months with, you know, it was interest free, so nothing extra on it. That makes it £39.80 per month for 5 months, or about $50. Saying $50 sounds so much worse than 38 quid. This 58 Keys, it isn't about keyboards at all. It's about how can I fool my head into liking things by changing the currency and the numbers. Anyway, that makes this, I think, about £1.20 per day, or about $1.50 per day, every day for 5 months. And I'm not sure I can call that so much of a bargain, but still a bit of a bargain. And especially given how much I hammer my keyboards every day. I'll take that. Plus, of course, after the 5 months, when I've paid off all the periods for it, well, it's gone, it's done, it's free and clear, and then it will hopefully last forever, like Magic Keyboards do. Let me say just now, your writing, my writing, it's worth spending money on a keyboard, whether it's this keyboard or any other, or rather, it is worth doing it if you can. If you can't afford something, you can't afford it. But when you are able to, keyboards, it's an investment that's worth doing for your health and also just the pleasure of writing on them. I know that's true in general. Let me tell you what convinced me about this particular keyboard, just so that I feel better. I had the push that my old keyboard was failing, and I had the pull that I fancied that Touch ID. I mean, with this little button, I can walk up to my Mac, touch that, it unlocks. Without Touch ID, God, Stone Age, you have to tap a key and then enter your password. God, doesn't sound like the biggest deal in the world, I know, especially since you and I, we have both quite possibly done this approximately 11 billion times since we've ever had a Mac. But it's always for me, I come up to the keyboard with something on mind, something that I want to write, and I've got to get out and down a sentence that's forming. And with this Touch ID, with the speed of this Touch ID, I am walking up to the keyboard and I'm writing it down. It's like I don't notice the bit in the middle when I log into the Mac. There's no pausing to type a password. There's no interrupting the thought. Apart from, okay, it still feels like a bit of a new toy. I've had it about 5 weeks now. You do this unlocking by Touch ID without thinking. And as well as just feeling faster, it is faster. I don't know why, but with this one, I've always had a few moments where, I press a key, I wait a few moments before the wireless keyboard was detected by the Mac. Now, it's still wireless, but it might as well be wired in. It feels instant. And speaking of feeling, this is just you and me, isn't it? We're just talking, so I can tell you this because you get it. Doesn't mean you won't think I'm daft, but you'll understand it. This comparatively ludicrous keyboard, I mean, that's what, 200, it's like 20 times more than the cheapest keyboard you could get, cheapest reasonable keyboard you get, but 20 times more. This, let's go with this preposterously expensive keyboard. When I'm typing on it, it feels like gold. I cannot explain that. Certainly can't justify it. And it's not like I've ever actually typed on gold, but that was the word that came into my mind the day this arrived, and I hurriedly swapped it over and started writing on it. Well, okay, it wasn't the very first thing that came to mind. The very first thing was a bit of a worry, actually, about this Touch ID, because it didn't work. Unboxing the keyboard, right, effortless, you would expect. Connected to the Mac, I still appreciate how Apple does this. That was effortless and fast. Setting up Touch ID, doddle, because the Mac saw the new keyboard, saw that it had this Touch ID button, and it went, oi, William, do you want to set this up now or later? Okay, excellent. Except when all of that was done, I had set up, it's this finger, set up this finger, and you can set up two. I figured I'd register one for my other hand because, I mean, I'm so often coming into the room carrying books and things, carrying up to the key. So, one finger, two fingers. I couldn't do it. That was the problem. I couldn't do it at first. If you have any keyboard with Touch ID and a Mac, you get a Touch ID settings panel in System Preferences. Or you do if your Mac recognizes that you have a Touch ID keyboard. And while my Mac here obviously did recognize it because it had just let me set up the first finger for Touch ID, it was, for some reason, it was against me showing it two fingers. That System Preferences section, it just simply didn't exist for some reason. And really, who knows why, I had to restart my Mac. And while I did that, while it was restarting, I worried about having spent such a lot of money for what could be a faulty keyboard. That wasn't a very nice moment. I had the bad moment paying, then that moment, but then the Mac had restarted, panel was there, everything worked, everything came back. The Touch ID was right there where it should be in System Preferences, and I could set up this second finger. Although actually, exactly as I say that to you, just this moment I've realised, because it had gone wrong and I was so worried, and then it worked and I was so relieved. I was so relieved that I just went off and made some tea. I didn't actually set up the second finger, and I still haven't. I'll do that when you and I are done, okay? I'm not happy that my last Magic Keyboard only lasted me 645 days. I mean, enjoyable 645, but no. And I'm not exactly happy that I've spent £200 in installments, but still paying it for this new keyboard. I am happy though with Touch ID. In fact, I'm so happy. I'm so used to it already. Every time I have to, enter a password, for example, just touch. I would now hate to move back to that old keyboard or any keyboard that doesn't have Touch ID. Maybe that is the thing. Maybe that's actually always the thing with anything that Apple makes. The point of purchase, paying for it, can be painful. But once that pain point is gone, once you've handed over the cash and can kind of put it behind you mentally, every time I tap a key on this keyboard, I am glad I've got this. That's it for this expensive edition of 58 Keys. Thanks for watching and for genuinely helping me, at times anyway, feel a bit better about this keyboard. Sometimes better, sometimes worse, but generally trending upwards. Because if you, now you take care of yourself, write more on any keyboard you like, and I'll see you soon.